Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I am going to be sharing a Halloween tutorial. This is going to be a pretty fast one. It's a little bit silly. I don't do spooky Halloween. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat. I can't handle it. So I do a little bit more of the silly side. So today we're going to be making some really simple quilled bats. As always, we're going to start with our supplies. I'm using Quilled Creations black paper, and I'm going to use a tiny bit of white later on. You can use either your needle tool or your slotted tool for this project. It really won't matter either way. You're also going to need some glue. I would recommend the clear glue for this. It's always good for black paper. Pins will come in handy. A board with wax paper would be good, and some small scissors. I'm going to start off today with the bat head. And for this part, I'm going to be using 3 strips of this black paper. And just for your information, Quilled Creations paper is about 17 inches long. So if you want your bats to be around the same size, you're going to want to either use this brand or adjust your paper. If your paper is a different length, go ahead and use that and just have a different size bat. No problem at all. I'm putting a little bit of the clear glue down on my wax paper there because I'm going to be applying it later on with a tool instead of right from the bottle. Sometimes it's easier with this particular brand of glue. And I'm going to start off by rolling one of the strips of the black paper from end to end to make a tight coil. When this strip gets to the end of the tool, I'm going to take it off of my slotted tool just to make the next few steps a little bit easier. And like I said before, I'm dipping an extra tool into the glue. You can use a toothpick if you have one. If you want to go straight from the bottle, that's always okay. I just find it's a little bit messy with this, again, with that particular applicator. Then I'm going to be adding my next strip right where, it's hard to line it up, it's kind of hard to see the black paper, right where the last strip ended. I'm going to add my second strip there and start rolling. Another way you could do this would be to glue all the papers end to end first and then roll it all up at once. That is another option. And as soon as I'm done with the second strip, I'm going to end it by gluing it onto the coil and then add that third strip as well. So all 3 will be on this one coil. Now my third strip has been rolled, and I'm going to end that by gluing it down as well. And now I'm going to form the bat head by making a little bit of a dome, pushing it from the underneath with my thumbs and trying to make it as even as possible all the way around. This bat's going to be a little bit 3D, not super 3-dimensional, really just this one part here. And whenever you have a 3-dimensional quilling, you're going to want to apply some glue to the underneath to make sure the shape stays in place. And I used my fingers there. If I had a brush, it would have been a lot smarter, but I didn't know where it was at this point. Next, we're going to be making some little tiny ears for the bats. These strips are about 1 inch long, and I'm going to roll it all the way to the end, take it off my tool, glue the end closed, and pinch one side to make it into a teardrop. Once both my ears were done, I just applied a tiny bit of glue towards the top and put one ear on one side and the other ear pretty close together. I like them sort of right at the top. without having them too far spaced apart or coming off at an angle, just sort of poking right out in the air. Something along those lines right there. And then the last part to kind of amp up the goofy factor on these little bats is to cut some little fangs from your white paper. And I just did that by snipping 2 triangle shapes from a piece of white quilling paper. I did not measure these obviously in any way. I just snipped at the paper. They're so small. If you don't like them, just redo them. You're not really wasting too much paper that way, but I dipped one of the fangs in the clear glue, and then I used my tweezers because they're so small. If you just use your fingers, they'd probably stick to them. Use some tweezers to put them on, and you will have a little bit of wiggle room if you don't like exactly where they land, or well, like that. One of my ears is already, didn't wait very long. If you need to move them around, you should be able to get them exactly where you want them. And now we are going to move on to the wings for the bat. So what I'm going to be doing is taking another piece of that 17-inch paper and rolling it from end to end on my slotted tool. This time though, I'm going to take it off the tool and let it open up a little bit to expand the coil. Right around there, not too big. Just let it relax for a little bit. And then with a little bit of that same clear glue, I'm going to seal the end so that shape stays. And you're actually going to need 3 of those same shapes for each wing. So 3 for one side, 3 for the other, 6 of them total. I'm just going to be making one of the wings here, but you're going to repeat this process again. So now we're going to turn each of these coils into a triangle. And if you're not familiar with that, what you do is make a teardrop by pinching one side and then turning that teardrop and pinching 2 more times on the other end. And then we're going to make it a little bit of a different shape by bending one of those sides over a tool to give it kind of an arced effect. So same thing again, pinch to a teardrop, turn that so that it's facing down between your thumbs, and then double pinch for a triangle, bend it over a tool for a little curved shape, and then same thing for the third. When you start putting your wings together, they're going to sort of look like this. They're going to have one triangle facing up and then the other 2 sitting on the sides of that. But I wasn't happy with the way that my curved end was acting here, so I decided I needed to kind of bend it a little bit more, exaggerate it a little bit more by really pinching it with my thumb, and that helped a lot. So now we can start putting the wings together. So I'm going to dip, still using that needle tool, I'm going to dip it into some of the clear glue and put those 2 together, and then a little bit on the other side of the one in the middle and put those together too. Now I'm going to be using some pins to keep my wing together, and I would recommend that because you're going to end up wrapping this in the next step just to give it more of a finished look. And if they're starting to come apart, or those corners where the triangles meet are separating, or they just didn't glue together all the way, there's going to be kind of some gaps in your wing and it's not going to have the same effect. So I would really focus on putting the pins, especially in the corners and the sides, making them real tight, and that should keep everything together the way you want it to. Once all my pieces are together, I am going to take the pins out because I'm still not super dupes happy with how the arcs are going on the bottom of those triangles. So I'm going to just kind of give it one more good squeeze and really get those shapes going. And I left this in here because I just wanted to show how, you know, sometimes things don't work out exactly as you mean them to sometimes, and that's okay. You can probably make some adjustments. Could have easily scrapped this and redid it. It was only 3 pieces of paper. Not a big deal, but that is a little bit more of what I'm looking for. And I'm much happier with it now. And I'm going to pin it back down to wrap it. You could wrap this in your hand and just not pin it down, but I'm going to make this a little bit easier on myself by having it stay in place while I do this. And if you're not familiar, what I'm going to do here is just take one more strip of the same paper that I've been using, that black paper, and wrap the entire shape, which is going to cover all the seams where it meets. It's just going to make it look a little bit more finished, a little bit more done. I like to do this. This is not a necessary step by any means. I just think it looks a little bit nicer in the end. So what I'm going to do again is a little bit of glue around every edge and then just wrap that black strip all around. And when I get to the end, I'm going to cut off anything extra, and that's it. Once both your wings are done, you can go ahead and attach them to your little bat head. And they're going to be attached just by the very tip. It's going to kind of make it look like your bat is flying right at you. Wings spread in flight, which will make it a little bit fragile as it's drying. If you use a good glue, it'll stay on just fine once it's dried. But again, this is why I use this wax covered board. Just keep it in one place, let it dry for a little bit, and you'll be in good shape. And here are a couple older bats that I made a couple years ago when I first came up with this tutorial. The wings are slightly different. I ended up making thinner triangles, which is why they look slightly different, but both equally cute. So you can use these bats on your Halloween cards, sprinkle them around for a little bit of a decoration. I do want to note, if you look up in the corner, those little acorns are also made of quilling paper. The caps are real acorn caps, and then the bottom is quilling paper. I will leave the directions to that tutorial down in the description box, along with all the supplies that I used today. Again, these bats are a little on the silly side. They are not spooky at all, but they're a great way to play with the triangle shape, which is not something that you really get to do super often in quilling. So Hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave me comments down below, and I will see you next time.